Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. So I had read, well, first of all, I'm going to start off this video with another great comment from Marty McCorkle. He's on fire, Marty. And he says, the last time I watched James Corbett, he was taking Paul Ehrlich to the woodshed very meticulously by explaining how Ehrlich garnered a flock of accolades and ribboned awards from the psychopathic elites, which is a well-documented fact. My mind wandered after the first 20 minutes of Corbett's video about what a stinker Paul Ehrlich is, and I got the impression that everyone should avoid being alone with Paul Ehrlich, lest he go postally population overshoot. And with his mouth frothing, push a woman and her baby stroller over the ledge of a multi-level parking lot, then dust his hands and gleefully proclaim, 2 less parasites on your back, Gaia. James Corbett considers population overshoot a hoax because Paul is at least 20 minutes of videos worth of terribleness. Apparently, planet carrying capacity is no more worth listening to than those signs that limit the number of people allowed on an elevator. This is great. Fill this elevator up, I can hear James Corbett say. No limits on the weight that elevators can carry. Bring the pallet of bricks right on in. And come on in, Bakersfield Bowling League, plus your 30 cases of beer. Weight limits on elevators are a hoax, perpetrated by the maker of the warning signs, who receives his salary from the elites who want to control us. Corbett did not get ensnared by planet carrying capacity nonsense. A Corbett Report viewer might get the impression that facts, data, and projections on population overshoot are spotty, if they exist at all, and probably not backed, only backed by 3 scientists. Facts and Corbett don't seem to be on talking terms, and in that vein, perhaps Einstein's theory of relativity may be a complete fiction. After all, Einstein often wore shoes without wearing socks, making Einstein a dreadful person, at least in someone's eyes. Though Einstein's foot odor during his sockless period is not well documented, it suggests Einstein's theory of relativity is, like population overshoot, alarmism, a conspiracy among scientists to amass money and power, which scientists drool after more than after any university tenureship. Tens of thousands of scientists around the world conspire daily, apparently. Who knew? I know they're infamously reticent, but they also fudge numbers amid more giggling than a sorority reunion. I like Corbett's persistent skepticism, but like all limits to growth denialists, he bets nothing. If I, along with millions of others, are wrong in the bet that we are in population overshoot, I will gravely apologize for the alarm I helped to foster and gladly hand over a highly populated, slightly used planet to the victorious skeptics. Then I will walk away with my head bowed, vowing to be a better and more thoughtful alarmist. On the other hand, if population overshoot starts making the planet unlivable for most people, thus proving the denialist as wrong as men's bikini underwear, the denialist doesn't have another planet to replace ours, even after he checks under his bed twice for a forgotten livable planet that might have rolled under there by accident. The denialist has nothing to offer if he is proven wrong, and may not even admit his wrong-headedness with a, whoopsies, my bad. Super sorry. This makes for a slightly uneven playing field. The denialist will owe us one livable planet to replace this Earth he was betting would continue along as passably livable. Then the denialist will probably try to change the subject to the weather and realize his blunder too late, that weather wasn't the wisest subject to turn to. With Greenland going on a crash weight loss diet, reality is taking on the smell of Einstein's shoes, which is why I love vacations from reality and jet off on flights of fancy almost daily in my head, not in a real jet. But I check in on reality to make sure it still has the fixings to make me the 3 squares daily. I suspect James Corbett's visits to reality are even spottier than mine. Bless his skeptic little heart. But let's hope Corbett has a very long career ahead. His doing so means that the biosphere is still holding together, if only barely enough for denialism to still offer an attractive career. One that will disappear as collapse begins to spit on its hands and starts chopping the human population down as fast as a Brazilian rainforest. After all, the real canary in the coal mine of biosphere collapse is the denialist. When the denialist stops his reassuring chirping and songs, it's time to leg it. Really good stuff by Marty McCorkle. Keep it coming. I read this actually in an earlier video, but then I deleted the video, so I'm going to read it again. This is from Michael Campy, his latest offering on Way Past What the Fuck, titled Christmas in July. Starts with a quote from No Time by the Guess Who. On my way to better things, I found myself some wings. Distant roads are calling me. No time left for you. It's from August 9th. Many years ago in San Francisco, a friend of mine was diagnosed with AIDS. We all watched as while he got sicker and sicker. One night in late June, I got a phone call from his partner Joel, who said that it did not appear likely that Eloy would last through September, and he had decided to have a little Christmas celebration. In early July, we all went over to their house. Eloy was an amazing person, an artist, a writer, and philosopher. In the corner of the room was a little Christmas tree decorated as only Eloy could decorate, and under the tree was a note. The note read simply, "Dear Santa, please give me more time." Eloy deserved more time, much more so than the average person. He had gifts to give the world, and we are poorer because of his death. Whenever I hear someone say, "I need more time," I wonder what exactly it is they need more time to do. Most of our lives are spent in mind-numbing, tedious pursuits with the odd memorable moment thrown in. Jack Kerouac said, "Because in the end you won't remember the time you spent in the office or mowing the lawn, climb that damn mountain." How many of us are going to climb a mountain? How many of us are going to do anything truly meaningful before we go? How many of us are going to question the way we spend our final years on the planet? What would you do with more time? Would you help people? Would you try to make a difference in your community? Would you sit in nature and appreciate its soon-to-be-lost magnificence? Or do you want more time to go on a trip? Or save money to make some meaningless purchase? Or to enhance your investment portfolio? Or to watch more TV? Most of us have more than enough time to enjoy what few moments are left to us by doing something that has value, but we squander it with bickering and divisiveness and petty political arguments, things that will very soon have no meaning at all. In many cases, at least in Western civilization, it is always more time for selfish reasons. I rarely hear of people asking for more time to listen to the trees, or more time to read and ponder our dilemma, or more time to sit and talk with friends and family. I imagine that in the very near future, perhaps even this year, there will be many notes under many Christmas trees that will echo Eloy's desire for more time. Always good stuff by Michael Campy. And lastly, in this video, I want to cover this article. New UN report puts a dagger through climate deniers' favorite argument. This is from August 10th. No, carbon dioxide emissions are not good for global food production. Former Representative Lamar Smith spent he was from Texas, Republican, much of his lengthy career in Washington denying the threat of human-caused climate change, a relentless effort that included harassing federal climate scientists and peddling fake climate scandals. Then in 2017, Smith's view on planetary warming suddenly shifted. What the fossil fuel industry ally had for so long refused to acknowledge as real, he now argued was beneficial to crop production and the lushness of the planet. CO2 is just plant food. Pumping the atmosphere full of carbon dioxide will aid photosynthesis, which in turn contributes to increased plant growth, he wrote in an op-ed published in the Daily Signal, a news website of the right-wing Heritage Foundation. This correlates to a greater volume of food production and better quality food. Go CO2. Less than 2 years earlier, a retired Princeton physics professor named William Happer, now an advisor in President Donald Trump's White House, had founded a right-wing group think tank to defend the honor of CO2, as he described it in a 2015 speech. The group, called the CO2 Coalition, spends its days cheerleading for the very greenhouse gases driving the global crisis. It claims CO2 is nothing more than plant food, and that rising atmospheric concentrations will play a crucial role in meeting the planet's growing food needs in the next century and beyond. A quarter of the CO2 Coalition's funding in 2017 came from the mega donor Mercer family, which plowed more than $15 million into Trump's 2016 campaign and continues to bankroll climate change denial, including probably all the YouTube channels you see on global, dimming or grand solar minimum, or, the magnetosphere or whatever. That argument that CO2 emissions from fossil fuel benefit humanity has become a favorite among climate contrarians as an all but irrefutable body of scientific work, has forced many to abandon outright climate change denial. To be clear, it's a myth that's been discredited before. A United Nations report drove home this point this week. The new assessment from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or the IPCC, the leading body of UN researchers studying human-caused global warming, warns that the unfolding crisis has already negatively affected crop growth in many parts of the world and poses a major threat to global food security. It found that some 500 million people live in areas where once productive land has dried out and turned to desert, including parts of North Africa, East Asia, and Middle East, and soon the middle of the United States. Food security will be increasingly affected by future climate change through yield declines, especially in the tropics, increased prices, reduced nutrient quality, and supply chain disruptions. It is true that higher carbon dioxide concentration has made parts of the world greener and can boost plant growth in some environments, but scientists say the negative consequences of climate change on the agricultural sector far outweigh any benefits from the so-called CO2 fertilization effect. This argument about CO2 being good for us, good for the food system, is really pure lies and propaganda. I can tell you from personal experience, I've been growing a garden, or attempting to grow a garden, for the last few years. Right where I'm at, my dad used to have a garden here, and it was quite productive. And about 4 years ago, things just stopped growing, or not growing very well. I do get some things to grow, but it's very hit or miss, very stunted, and it's very difficult. So anyways, I'm going to link this below. That's all I have time for in this video. You guys can read the rest of that article for yourself for a deep dive into that information, but you get the general gist. The answer is no, climate deniers. It does not help. It's not going to help more plants grow. It's not going to help humanity in the long run. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.